Welcome back, guys, to the LCK. My name is Joe, and here I am to translate for you guys. It's Dangun and Bitol is here once again. Help you guys with the after game segment, after game 1 here. Griffin does get the victory this time around. It really was about the team fight once again that made all the difference. It was the important point that we've been keeping notice on for this specific meta, and it's been looking just the case for this specific case. And we are talking about Camille and Nocturne on the jungle, having such a big impact for their respective teams. This is where it all begins. Got the leash from the bot lane to begin us off, and Nocturne went with a solo start to the red on the opposite side for Griffin. And it really was definitely a starting from behind for Nocturne, if you know that case, and just means that the Camille definitely has the win to the Scuttle Crab, which gives an early advantage, helps out so much. And that's where you really beat down in that level 3 race. Obviously, you have to get the Scuttle Crab to get that level 3, so it helps a lot. And that really allowed Camille having that early movement to get the early gank on in mid lane, get the flash out of Lulu, and we knew where it could go from there, and it just gave Zoe a lot more comfortable laning phase, where you see Nocturne not being able to do much on the other end there. And that's what you get when you don't get the leash with the Nocturne, and that's how you start off with that red, slowing down your level 1 through level 3 and lose out their early trade. But it became important for Nocturne. Did perform a lot better in the later parts of that game, where it did have a lot bigger impact. We just thought that MVP was really very well expecting the attacks coming in from Nocturne. It feels like the Galio's movement was actually the difference maker here, where so with the vision that it was provided here, and allow Camille to just go in aggressively, because the Nocturne was right there, just ready to go in. The Lulu did arrive, gave that ultimate, but we ended up seeing Galio being on there to support with the ultimate. That allowed, in the end, for MVP to get the bigger advantage in the end. We talk about the Nocturne getting the gank off, and you would think that it would get the advantage over the Griffin, but definitely the Galio's movement with the support doing a lot better to get the more advantage in the end on that trade with the Nocturne and Camille. Depending on how you start off, you can still see that it's a top tier junglers on both teams that both teams decided to pick up. But in the end, Griffin did get the advantage, fighting through the mid game and leading that all the way to the end game, and that's how they get the victory in game 1. And people do say Vladimir is the definition of ADC now, as much AD was involved in that, and Vladimir is becoming such a high priority, especially in the LCK, and even the fans are starting to notice the top priorities that it has in that champion. Of course, the MVP now are probably thinking of a better alternative to beat out Griffin, and hopefully in game 2. And once again, this is another rhyme. Do not, guys, I don't want to do this. He says, Depa Super Viper. See, nobody in the crowd is even cheering for this. This is what happens. Now, I'm gonna talk to the LCK guys about that after this. We need to talk to them about this, but this is the rhyme of the day. Depa Super Viper. And that's just basically saying, Viper is the Super Viper that has been relied upon for the side of Griffin, and definitely has contributed to his part to get the win there. And that's going to be the end of the segment here with Dangun and Bitol. And my name is Joe. I'll be back for the next segment if we do have a game 3, and we'll see you right then.
Thank you very much, Joel, and welcome back, guys, to LCK 2018. Joel getting triggered is actually really fun in those segments, but MVP is going to go to Viper. Scoreline doesn't necessarily show it, but man, the Vladimir was doing so much work in the late game.
He's just such a good player. Very impressive to have this player come through to the LCK, and I'm ready for it to be a marksman in the future, because I know he's going to have some arguments there as well. He's on the Vladimir, but apart from one particular engage, it was very on point. Some of his Vladimir play. It didn't look flashy, but so many times he chose the right time to hit the backline. This is the one time he didn't. Thanks, OGN, for that clip. It still did a lot of damage.
Oh, wow. The reason Yondu survived is he flash smited the Gromp to get the health. Didn't notice that last time.
A lot happening this game, but it all centered on team fights, and that is what Griffin is known for and what Griffin drafted for. Eventually, Viper was going to find the backline. They burned down. They got the Baron from this and closed the game from it. And if you know the enemy team is going to give up the early game, is going to always index into team fights, you need to find the right bans or you need to have the right strategy. And for MVP, for a lot of this game they did, but unfortunately they hit a bit of a brick wall. They couldn't take the Baron themselves. The game extended, and then you have fights like this.
Yep. And what was the final assessment of the Galio support, Papa Smithy? How did you feel like it?
You know, Tom Kench would have been pretty helpful this game.
I think so too. Oh, but he didn't make it look useless, and the game was extraordinarily close for the large majority of it. But we got some swaps by the sounds of the music change. So let's see who's going to be joining the MVP roster and who's going to be kicked out. Maha is going to leave, so we're going to have Pilot making his way in. Of course, a few other players on this roster. Is there going to be any more MVP? Yes, there is. Max is making his way out. We're going to get Motive for the first time, I believe.
Yes, it is his LCK debut, and you know what? He didn't play in any of the regions either because he was born on January 8th, 2001. So another young'un, another 17.
What were you doing that time when you were 14 years old?
I was 13. I was looking forward to my birthday. It was in 18 days afterwards.
Yeah, I think I was about 13 as well.
Well, that means an entire bot lane. I wonder if they've been scrimming together. We're unsure of that particular one, but Griffin's making a change after a victory. Mid lane is really the one they've been playing around with, and it seems like Rather will be subbed out. So what about the 17 squad coming in as Chovy, the March 2001 player? The average age of this broadcast is going way down.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, is this, as far as ages added up on two teams in a game, is this the lowest that they've been?
We're getting there, Atlas.
I feel like we are getting there. I feel like that's a stat that I can't say right now, though.
And this man's fan base getting there, too, after popping off on Yasuo last time out. Chovy gives them a very different option. I like when substitutes are very different. Ambition Haru was supposed to be farming jungler and aggressive jungler. Rather plays Lulu, he plays Galio, he plays the utility champions. Chovy's the high mechanics carry, and that's going to be fun to see. So two young bucks running around this particular rift. Good to see. The next generation coming through always makes you smile, even if it makes me feel older and older.
Yeah, I was going to say, just as long as we don't think about it in reference to ourselves, it is very exciting because who's going to be the next FLICKR? Who's going to be the next score? Who's going to be the next exciting player to look for?
Oh, you don't want answers? Never mind. We'll hold that topic. It's not interesting for the viewers.
but Papa, can't you just... No. You know already? You know already?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, okay, well, I guess we'll save that for another day. This is like a Dragon Ball Z episode. We need to hook them in with something. So tune in to the next 38 million episodes to figure that one out, as we're going to be on screen for a little while. I have a feeling that there are still some peripherals to be sorted out.
They need some time. Yeah. So we're just not going to talk about who the next FLICKR will be because it'll make too many people mad.
No, we also can't do it on screen as well because we need to be busy calculating.
We have to have our
things.
Veil of mystique.
Mystique, yeah, exactly.
We need to be off the screen. That's what we need to do.
I think that's definitely true. So why would you bring Max out, Papa? Why do you believe that Motive has been brought in here? Is it because he demanded Galio support last game instead of playing Tom Kench?
I mean, to answer your question, I wouldn't. I think Max is kind of the heart and soul of this team and always has been. Heart and soul of this broadcast too, mate.
Thanks,
Atlas's
Papa.
real name is Max.
Yeah, if you guys
don't get used to the compliments; they won't come very often.
I know. I'm very excited.
But,
I'm gonna have to go home and write to my mom, I think.
Max is such a flexible player. He does everything. Yeah. He's that player who's been around the scene a long time. Was on CJ years ago in 2015. I played with Trick, of course, in the lineup way back then. Now both of them back in the LCK on different rosters. Motive is young, and mechanics is something you could bring up, but I don't think we'd criticize Max's mechanics. He's got the champion Ocean. Maybe they told him to pick Tom Kench, and he picked Galio.
And maybe also they just wanted to completely switch out the bottom lane. So now you've got Motive and Pilot moving in together. Does this mean that potentially MVP have been sending them off into solo queue duoing together, and maybe the synergy they want to test out?
So if it was slightly different, if this was Maha and Motive coming in,
I guess that would make
it'd make sense. But we just saw Pilot and Max do well last season, the first match of this season. That's the part where I'm like, don't really get it. Now, it is a change, and maybe it affects the communications more than we can know. But on the face of it, not a fan of the change.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it does go. Looking over the other side, of course, very exciting to see Chovy. And I think the biggest thing about this particular change is the change it's going to have on the draft. I think that a lot of the bans are going to be different because people know that Rather does like to play a little bit more of his utility, a little bit more supportive, things like that. But now the Yasuo needs to be looked at under a fine-tooth comb. His Zoe also absolutely fantastic. We're going to be switching over to different sides. There's a possibility that Zoe's going to be stolen away from Ian.
And I wonder if they'll use Chovy as a weapon, because this is, again, a victory into Chovy play, not Rather struggling in Game 1 and then studying Chovy for Game 2, like what happened a few days ago. So I wonder, because it could also be related to blue and red side. If you have a guy who just needs the utility champion that isn't banned, and then if you have a carry who maybe on the blue side gets more access to his carries, there's a lot to wonder about here. It's a very fun thing to spitball.
Well, we'll see what happens as it now looks like we are ready. Of course, just need a little more time. No issues or anything like that. So we're going to have the VR set up for our sweet champion select. First few bans now going to come through. So seeing whether it does change is going to be very interesting. Griffin now to open things up. So switching sides, so of course things could be different. And MVP now banning Vlad, I believe could make a lot of sense.
Almost required, but Atlas, there's a lot of must-ban champions, and they decided,
of course, one of them.
I think it's a good choice by Griffin because ADD Singed was very useful. In the end, it wasn't enough to pick up a victory, but it really hurts Sword's champion pool. We mentioned it before, but given the Sword is trying to play tanks only, pre-series starting, we said this is a smart ban, whereas for the side of Griffin, Nocturne Shen has been their big duo, but now they're on blue side and kind of throw around bans willy-nilly. They have a carry mid laner and not a supportive mid laner. They can ban away the Alistar, they can ban away the Singed, and MVP has to really dig deep and work out how do you shut down Griffin and ban the must-ban champions? Because do you just have to ban Taliyah Irelia on the red side? Do you have to ban the Yasuo and leave open the Irelia? I think Chovy on blue side is a headache because you have to respect something like Taliyah and the other must-ban champions, the first pickable champions on patch 8.11.
Well, the Yi is going to be taken away, meaning that it looks like Griffin are just trying to thin the pool as much as possible and get 3 really strong champions.
Or you could say they have to be careful to not give 2 strong champions to MVP, because MVP chooses what's left open now, and Camille is open, Yasuo is open. The Irelia will not be left open, and the Nocturne we know is a big contested pick, so there's actually quite a lot, once again, of balls in the air, to continue my juggling analogy. What does Griffin want? Because Nocturne has been so core to them, but we know that Tarzan can be a more active player. He's actually looked like a passenger, because Nocturne 3 games in a row is not going to be a highlight champion. As you know, you could Nunu Karthus, I guess. You could also Braum mid.
Yeah, you could also Braum Graves this time around. A lot of duos that they can grab. They can pick up a bottom lane if they felt like as well, but I just feel like denying the Vladimir is so important. There is no chance Griffin does an insta-lock Vlad unless MVP take it.
So they might steal away the Noc Lulu part of the comp that Griffin had wanted before. It's not really a steal on Nocturne just because the Camille had already been claimed. Sword isn't really a top lane Camille play. He has played it, but he's more known for his tanks. Did they steal a lot away when the first pick was Camille? Because this could definitely be Zoe and friends on the blue side.
I just feel Yasuo Vlad would have been so good right here if Griffin wanted to grab it. Of course, Zoe very strong as well. They've almost got too many great options here in the second round of picks here for Griffin. But Zoe is going to be the choice into the mid lane, and Chovy certainly played a good game against Hanwha Life Esports in their first match, which is a couple of days ago. But now, can Chovy find the Vladimir button? Or is Viper going to throw something else into the mix?
I don't think you have to go Vlad here. It's very interesting. You can go Vlad because it's a bit of a blocker for the Yasuo bot lane. We've talked about that a couple of times. They're just going to go with the Vlad because it's been working, and they already have Camille for engage. 2 teams already have a lot of hard engage going on in this draft. That's fun to see. It's side Vlad anyway. Now the action is on to MVP.
still.
Lucian and all of the AD carries are available. We've seen precious little Lucian, but one of the ones we did see was Pilot. So returning to the Lucian that he had a very nice stat line on. First time out, and look at that, a marksman.
Yeah, it's going to be the second time Pilot's going to be able to play it. And of course, remember, Pilot is 100% win rate so far in the LCK. And Lucian was one of his picks. I believe it was Lucian Leona that they played in that game.
Surprising a little bit to see the Soraka ban at that particular pick. Vladimir already locked in on the side of Griffin. Wasn't going to be double bruiser on the side of MVP either because they already have the Lucian. So a bit surprised by that. We're seeing some bans towards the control supports. Alistair was first round, the Fiddlesticks the second.
Yep. Shen, theoretically, another one.
It's probably top and support that Griffin are looking for. The support part is guaranteed to this ban away 2 supports, one of which is an engage one. So engage and lane power banned away by MVP.
Morgana, is that going to be the next choice? Of course, was the final ban for Griffin last time out.
I don't know if you care about Morgana, particularly if you're Griffin with this sort of a comp with Hextech Ultimatum.
Just mainly talking about the fact that it was considered last time, but no, you're exactly right. Going to go to the Ornn as the final ban. ADD, of course, very comfortable on tanks like that towards the top side of the map, but...
What do you consider a Poppy? An ADD special. There is a Camille on the other side. Braum to be locked in. You never know with the Braum. It is the flexible mid laner in a lot of comps. I don't think in this one it's just an answer to the Zoe. If it is to be locked in.
Would make sense to go into the hands of Motive, of course, a self-professed Thresh Braum player.
Now you could just throw a complete wrench in the works and go Skarner Thresh here and make it the old favorite on the side of Griffin.
Ooh.
Bring back the Griffin special. That'd be so cool to see. Now I really want to see it. I'm going to be disappointed if it isn't locked in. Why did I even say it out loud?
Well, I don't want to see the Skarner myself because it hasn't been very successful so far in the LCK or anywhere else that we've seen it. But Morgana has been picked up, so Griffin didn't ban it because apparently they wanted to pick it up for themselves.
Really thinking it's going to be a jungle Camille, but it doesn't have to be. What are they feeling here, Griffin? Is the final pick.
And is it going to be Morgana Vladimir on the bottom side of the map,
Yes.
or are they going to pick up something else?
You'd
Could be going
have to
top
think
lane,
yes.
who knows? But Mundo.
Surprised they banned away the Ornn if they were happy to take a Mundo matchup. But Sword has already played one good game on the Mundo. That was against Darius against Humble Life Esports on the first day of the season.
Mundo hasn't lost many games so far
No.
in the LCK either. He just seems to be able to get to that point where he doesn't die. And what was it? The burning brick wall build coming out from Smeb last night with a Gargoyle Stone Plate after the Sunfire Cape. Going to be a toughie as ADD. He's going to try his hand at the gangplank into the Mundo. So scaling alongside one another. It's a very reminiscent comp from MVP of what Griffin ran into them the game prior.
Just high Mundo priority. Again, it's not a comp where Mundo is super favored like the Ezreal Cannon duo that could be shut down by him alone was the first time we saw Mundo from Sword. Mundo's going to run at Pilot. We know about that part already. But if the enemy team has backline dive, Mundo can't peel. So the one thing he doesn't do is peel. Still very interesting comps. I'm happy to see Tarzan on a playmaker, this time against a Nocturne, not with one. Viper back on the Lucian. Do feel like at some point, back on the Vladimir, you do feel at some point, Vlad, Camille, and Mundo enter a bar, there is no counter, but there is no 100% certainty that late game will come.
And they also don't have the Cannon Barrage now to augment the Hemo play.
No.
They don't have the Wombo combo that you were talking about that they really did have to utilize as the game went on in game number 1. So definitely a very different looking comp. And now the question of, is it going to be okay in the later stages of the game without a marksman, does really come to fruition. So can Pilot navigate this game to get to the point where he is going to be relevant? Only one way to find out. Let's get on to the Rift. Griffin fans really have to work on their champ, but I'm going to give it to them this time around because there's only been 2 matches that they've had the opportunity to work for, and our MVP fans absolutely love MVP.
I agree with this Griffin fan.
Yeah, that is brilliant. It's so artistic. Most of the time they draw them in here as well. I think that one may have come from home.
Yeah, I don't know if she brought her texters to the studio. But there's still plenty of MVP fans. There's an Ian fan. There's Viper and Lehans. Aren't they looking adorable on the right side of the screen?
Yeah. There's some real artists that come to the Soli Stadium. If you guys come from overseas, come to visit Seoul, and you want to come here, don't be intimidated. We do see some pretty shoddy artworks as well. So it's all spectrums that you can bring your art in. So far, no level 1 action. I was thinking that maybe MVP would try for something with a Braum, but Motive just going to be hanging out with Pilot.
Very, very quiet start here in game number 2. Griffin looking to go 18-0 on the year with this win. 2-0 and also be the first team to 2-match wins in the LCK.
Yeah.
Bit of a different look. Chovy's not on a fighter this time. He's going to be on the Zoe. But I'm most interested to see Tarzan, who has spent 3 games in a row just chilling and farming. He's finally got a playmaker, and Haru made us a big believer of the Camille. Not that we needed to have everything spelled out to us. We knew Camille would be very important. This is about as obvious as ever could be of a level 2 gank, and if MVP died of that, it's just bad.
Well, they are not at this point in time. Tarzan is going to wait for the Rift Cutlass spawn, which is exactly what he was going to do anyway, and is going to be able to take that one down. So, obvious gank was obvious, but the sweeper start was definitely a really cool way of making sure
they took a while to come to lane from the bot and also swept with a Camille jungle. I wonder what happened.
That game of Cluedo became very easy. Viper with the Crimson Rush, not going to be able to land that on the opponent, but you can see Griffin still able to control this bottom side, and with level 2 gained early, you can certainly understand why.
Still waiting for Tarzan to impact the map. When I heard this player coming through, we saw him in Kesper Cup, looked good. The hype of Griffin coming through. Tarzan, always one of the biggest complimented players. I feel like it was Tarzan and Viper who got the most hype of the Griffin lineup. The word from other junglers who play against Tarzan and solo queue, from the LCK junglers that is, was this guy is relentlessly aggressive, but hasn't really been what we've seen in the promotion matches. He's played 3 games in Nocturne, so you can't expect too much there. His other game was Skarner and didn't really do too much in that match. He's been pretty passive, so I kind of want to see the relentless aggression that's been promised to me, because so far his aggression has only bequeathed both the Scuttlecrafts.
And we have to remember as well, I mean, the game that he played first off here in the LCK was on the Camille, and was unable to make any impact whatsoever against the Elise of Songwon, if you guys were paying attention.
Songwon had a day out.
He did have a day out. Linderung, of course, had a day out on the Darius as well. It was certainly Hanwha Life Esports day out. ADD just trying his best to farm things up, and you can see he's gone Klepto this game.
In a different type of matchup. Not really under any pressure. He's not under the intense pressure of Singed, always looking to proxy, as we've decided to show you that Mundo did skill all his abilities at level 4.
Weird. I'm confused.
The Mundo that actually inspires the most fear from me in solo queue is Conqueror Mundo, going for Phantom Dancer. He does a lot of damage with that ability.
Headbutt max?
It does a lot of damage.
Yeah, it's silly. I've been killed by it over and over again. I thought I had the counter. I was playing Trundle top.
As every duo partner who plays with me knows, I just ban Mundo every game, just in case the game goes long and he outscales.
I just ban Master Yi every game, because I just never want to see that champion in Korean solo queue ever.
And for once, the pro scene agrees with you.
Finally. Hey, you agreed with me at a point. There was a time
true.
where you were a Master Yi banner. It's a different relevance in Korean solo queue.
It's definitely less scumbag than a Master Yi pick.
Yeah. Oh, they're the worst. Then you let through all of the dang Yasuo pickers. it's just a horrible time. Something is going to come in, but 8-8, he's going to clear out this minion wave, and Sword's going to be very happy about that. He's going to be able to pick it up.
It's going to be a free-farmed Gangplank versus a free-farmed Mundo, and I feel like the meta kind of dictates which of those is more important. Also, the team comps. Not a lot of Wombo on the side of MVP. One Wombo, I guess, is the wild growth into the Braum ultimate, but I'm not really sure that's going to be enough to make that happen. If there's a lot of wombo, then Gangplank Barrel Chain Link can do a lot of damage. If Sword is free farmed, he pops ultimate and usually zones 2 to 3 people. That's also very powerful, so it's all situational on how things go.
I feel like it really is going to be about Yondu being a very large damage source this game, because Cannon Barrage plus Wild Growth does feel exactly like the combination, and Ardent Sensor going to be picked up probably second item here for Ian, much like Rather, and we'll be able to offer him a lot of extra damage.
We'll be doing some timing this game. Needs Tarzan to get that Trinity Force a little bit more early into the game.
Yeah.
We saw some late ones. I believe 35 minutes was one of the ones we saw.
That's real bad news, as Sword's going to hit level 6 and immediately chase after ADD, but if you miss your first cleaver, not going to be able to lock down the Gangplank.
Apparently, that Gangplank's getting the weekend off.
Yeah.
Mundo is going to push up. Again, it's a farm lane. This is actually advantage ADD for a couple of reasons. The Klepto is the obvious one, but also the fact that he can impact other lanes with his ultimate means that Gangplank brings the team more at this point in the game.
And also the ultimate isn't really going to be used to clear out the lane reliably if you're going to get Dove or something like that.
I mean,
So
you
isn't
could
as
still possibly
required
get
in the lane.
Dove if Tarzan has a Sheen and shows up first and Mundo's tanking, but
Yep.
you're right, it is definitely lower priority than if you're playing a
Feels
lane
like,
buster champion like a Vladimir or Riven.
yeah, if it's on cooldown, you don't feel, well, I can't enter lane, I'm just going to die instantly. It's not that sort of option, as the electrocute coming out of the Vlad was a problem, as Chovy looking for the trouble bubble, but Ian's just going to sidestep it.
Want to point out to another item choice, Rush on the Hex Drinker coming through from Pilot. He's against Vlad Morgana, so
Yeah.
definitely great itemization there. Didn't see a lot of champions in previous metas be able to itemize like this. If you remember, there was a lot of Ziggs versus Caitlyn, where Caitlyn needed to build an IE and a Zeal item and couldn't fit in a Hex Drinker.
Yeah.
Lucian's a bit more free with the item path. We actually haven't seen an Essence Revolution in the LCK yet. It's been a lot of Blade the Ruined King, but the Vamp Scepter needs to come eventually against Vlad, but that's more towards level 9. When your only threat of dying is the all-in, with like a Morgana binding into double ultimate, I think the Hex Drinker first into, say, a Bilgewater Cutlass is a very effective build path for Pilot to stop there being any gimmick all-ins from the enemy team.
Yeah, especially considering the fact that you are a little bit more linear when it comes to your scale. Just, you know, build damage, and your Culling's going to do work, and your auto attacks are going to do work after your Piercing Light, given your passive and how it works. So I like it from the Lucian. And Black Cleaver, of course, is still relatively necessary for the cooldown reduction, but not seeing the Essence Reaver is very sad. I agree with you. It's been my favorite build, Blade of the Ruined King into Essence Reaver. Just a bit of a buff delivery system coming in from MVP. Griffin going to follow suit on the top side of the map. Everything's pretty quiet on Summoner's Rift. If we check in on the gold, it's going to illustrate that, because it's entirely even once again.
Yeah, I'm kind of staring at the champions in the interim and thinking about what late game team fights look like, because at a game played at this pace, seems like it's going to happen, but we'll hold the point.
Yeah, Yondu going to get the flash off here, as that's going to be First Blood going over to him. Viper trying to get one back for himself as the Ignite's ticking down. Yondu is going to survive as Tarzan looking for a dank on the top side of the map. It might be, but we'll see whether the dive is going to work. Holds onto the hook shot as ADD's in trouble. The Hextech Ultimatum is going to be his death. And
Well,
I said a lot of things wrong, but at least 2 people died.
But we still got to see the dank gank, whatever you were talking about. Very nicely done on the execution. Smeb-esque holding on to the first part of the hook shot and pulling it off anyway. Good turret tanking as well. Can always reset aggro with the Hextech Ultimatum. Nice stuff, and while Tarzan's pathing didn't bequeath multiple kills pre-6, you have to admit, the actual mechanics of the dive were nicely played.
Yeah, and also the result of the gank was very good for Griffin, because yes, Yondu got a kill on the bottom side, but there's still Viper there who wants to be picking up all of the farm and did get to do so, whereas ADD missed out on all of the farm, and it was Ian that had to roam up there in order to pick up what was left over. So it does mean that Griffin sort of do come out ahead, and to the tune of about 400 gold.
He has to walk the plank a little bit. 25 CS down on his opponent. His ultimate now on cooldown.
That wry smile, pup. I wish everyone could have seen that.
Excuse me, don't bring real life into this cast. We're all discombobulated heads over here. It's disembodied. I said discombobulated because it's a way funner word.
And you said funner, which makes it even funner. Okay, well, bottom lane is just going to be going normally while we sort of lose our minds a little bit here at the end of
Hey,
the
that's all you,
evening.
man. I'm just saying real stuff.
Sorry. I thought you thought that it was funner to say unreal stuff.
I'm always one step ahead. As MVP for the first time this game, are a bit ahead of the expectations of Griffin. It's a bit under the nose of Griffin picking up this Drake. So a nice little mountain, and that was their big win condition in game 1.
Trophy's going to get in here. Soul Shackles are actually invested into this as Lehen's not going to be CC'd, and that's just going to be a big motive. Just punished for positioning. Didn't have his flash available, remember, used that in the gank on the bottom side, and that's going to put Griffin ahead. Feels like a bit of caster curse there, Papa. We should probably not say good things about MVP anymore. I was doing it all last game, and then they lost.
100% clear if his ultimate was available. If it was, perhaps it should have been used. It was down regardless. Not going to be the biggest thing, and they did pick up the Mountain Drake for it, the 1-for-1. And MVP was saying, well, we got a lot of Drakes last game. Maybe we can make something happen around that objective this game.
Yep. Of course, Sword loving the tanks. Sort of thinks that if he plays too many bruises, he dies too often, so just plays tanks all the time. And now he's on the ultimate tank. We'll see what the build is going to be. Looks like Sunfire Cape is certainly going to be the first option. But where does he go afterwards is the question. We did see the Gargoyle's Stone Plate was picked up by Smeb last night into the Warmogs for the I'm an unkillable monster that is just never going to be touched build.
And I can tell you have been reading the interviews kindly provided by OGN.
Yeah.
One with motive here, where OGN asked him thoughts on Max. He says, he suggested me a lot of champions. Recently, he suggested me to play Talia and Twisted Fate support. I don't know if that's really helping out your teammate, Max, but okay.
But I completely trust that that's exactly what he said. Twisted Fate support.
Now, that used to be a thing back when it gave your team +2 gold in every last tier.
Yeah, you almost had to have a Twisted Fate. Just much like Zillion, who just used to give global experience.
This feels like it's kind of
used to be weird.
Isn't it a fun cutthroat thing to do? Like, yeah, you should be playing
Stop
TF
with your
support.
pirate references, Papa. What is happening?
I just mean that suggesting champions that you shouldn't play might keep Max in the team longer.
Hey, that's true, and I mean, Motive playing Braum means that obviously he didn't think it was serious, so it's gonna be all right.
Yeah, we all know Brom's a mid laner. Don't you watch Turkey?
Been watching NA solo queue a heck of a lot. Bjergsen seems to only play Tarek Braum now. I just feel like stream is going to be a lot less exciting.
Hey, let's leave all our jokes aside. Ian was a pretty sick Tarek. He hit his R every time.
Oh, yeah. And he got over 3 digits of damage as well.
He
Papa.
did. It was neck and neck there for a while.
Because he stole a pentakill.
I still think he goes down in the record books for the least damage in a victory at 1,360.
Yeah, I feel like that is probably true. It's pretty hard to do that little damage. For a mid laner, of course. I feel like there have been some supports that have done less damage than that. ADD, what do you worry about, Sword?
And Mundo can surprise you with damage, even if he's building full tank.
Headbutts, dude.
Doesn't have Sunfire yet. You do max the headbutts these days, or you're talking about the extra damage ability. His E is a secondary max, not the Burning Agony anymore, the W.
Yeah.
I think E is Masochism.
Masochism, yeah.
And Sadism is the ult.
Yep.
You could actually flip those around and maybe they'd be a bit
Exactly,
more...
which is why I never trust myself to know which is which.
I actually think
Sadism is definitely the ultimate, but you know what I mean?
You know how
Why
I
would
work
you
it
have
out?
both?
I think about which one fits and then remember that it doesn't fit. That's how I know which one it is.
Yeah. Well, the fact that he just likes pain in general, if you have a look at the lore from Mundo, means that I guess it does make some sense. How can you be a masochist and a sadist at the same time?
I don't know, ask Dr. Mundo.
I guess doing pain to yourself does make sense.
But isn't it pretty masochistic to just run straight at the enemy and ignore their damage? That's why I think it should be the name.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Well, Chovy, he's going to be able to take the... Oh, I missed the cannon creep. I almost commentated him taking the cannon creep. And didn't even manage to do it. Very unfortunate. Chain link for ADD, going to clear up this minion wave. And this game has been remarkably slow for this patch. And there's not a lot to show for it either, given the fact that this is very even.
If you rewind the tape to the start of today, it's been a slow day. It hasn't been 20 kills at 20 minutes like was the pace for the first 2 days. And it is on Koreans to find a way to slow down a meta.
And also, I mean, is a lot of this to do with the fact that a lot of these teams now are getting used to the meta. They've seen what everyone's been playing, and once that happens, a little bit easier to understand what's going on. But Tarzan, he's going to come in, ultimatum underneath this turret, and ADD, he's definitely dead. Sword can now tank the turret for about 15 years. We'll have to test that theory, but I think it's about that long, and it's all too easy for Griffin to grab the kill.
It's great timing, too, because the Rift Herald's available. Goodbye, Gangplank turret. You're not going to have that one anymore. They're going to push through here, take down the turret, and Yondu says, well, I'll get my Chronos.
Yeah. Okay, well, that one's very easy to take. And on the bottom side of the map, Hemoplague has been used because Viper took a little bit of damage there. Just wanted to get it all back and does so with that ultimate. Sword, he's going where he pleases.
He really wants a second charge and want Yondu to just take out the
Damn, Shelly
Rift
is
Herald.
so strong. So proud of her.
So Shelly's power has grown, and thus, you mentioned earlier that she's aging, so her power's growing.
Yeah.
Does she eventually not have a pet name, but actually have her birth name of Geraldine?
I'm pretty sure when Shelly grows up, her name's still Shelly.
Geraldine. Shelly's short for Geraldine.
Is it?
Yeah.
When has Shelly ever been short for Geraldine?
Now. Did you ask her name?
It's like that question, though. It's very confusing because when your Uncle Harold was a kid, was his name still Harold? Harold's just an old person name. Like,
all I'm saying is that someone told me when I asked them where Shelly came from that they asked Shelly her name. I saw her birth certificate. It said Geraldine.
You are coming out with all of the just straight-up fabrications today, brother.
Excuse me? Don't be facetious to the viewers.
He says, being facetious to the viewers. Griffin, though, they're not facetious. They can just grab themselves the Infernal Drake. That's going to even out the Dragon count here between these two squads, and they're going to be able to grab a Rift Scuttler at the same time. Yondu quietly taking his Gromp on the top side.
All I know is that people called Monty and Doa lore experts, and that's why we've been the Mythbusters. I went and found the birth certificate.
Oh, I'm done with you. It's just a little bit too much ridiculousness.
Well, I'm not going to cast with you tomorrow then.
Aww. No, of course you're not. You're over in Spo. How about on Saturday?
Nope.
Don't have to cast with me.
I want some Achilleos.
All right. Oh, delicious. My favorite cereal. Okay, MVP. Just going to grab some buffs. Try and work out how they're ever going to kill this Mundo as the game goes on. Looks like he's going to forego the Gargoyle Stone Plate like Smeb liked to go for. His sword, he likes to get his Warmogs as quickly as possible so that he can have as much health bar as he can.
The only downside with Griffin is when they get a lead, you know they're just going to late game team fight anyway.
Yeah.
They're not in a rush. They're like, this Vladimir.
Come on, Viper, you can do it.
Nope. He's going to keep farming, picking up points.
Well, I mean, he is ahead in farm against what is a very good laning duo. Hemoplague once again going to be used, and Viper going to nullify the trade by just putting it down onto Pilot, and he doesn't care because he's not going to fight, so does make some sense. I did not know Hemoplague was a sustain tool. Haven't seen it used that way before.
You know, I have a feeling later in the game it won't be as much of a sustain.
Oh, I feel like that's Viper using it wrong. But MVP might need to be a little bit careful. Yondu, the perfect position for the counter gank as Paranoia comes in. No one to target it to.
What I want people to take away from that, it ends up being inaction, but do note that Tarzan was exactly where he needed to be. He was there for the counter gank. They were walking down at the right time. That's the sort of thing where, how do we describe this team? Well, they like to delay and rely on their late game team fighting. They're ahead of the action against a Nocturne, even though they don't have deep vision. That's just smart game sense, and that is the reason they get away with delaying games in a meta that honestly is mostly set up to stop that happening.
Yeah, and they've just grabbed themselves a casual 3,000 gold lead, and it feels like it's just they've done nothing and then got that lead, as that binding just snuck through onto Pilot.
Not sure that ADD would agree with that, but you're right, everywhere else on the map has been pretty mooted.
Yeah, okay, well, I mean, that's a good point. You do need to keep a gangplank down, and they had the opportunity to rely on Sword to never take damage from a turret. But it means that ADD, look what he's doing now. Nothing. He's parked it.
He's going for late game. And Sword says sure.
Or he's gone to the bathroom. I don't quite know.
No more toilet issues, please.
Oh, no. I remember when that was just a Spo TV thing.
Yeah.
Everyone does it now.
Sword walks up, does his Mundo thing. Slowly, slowly we move forward.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a cool, calm, and collected one, and we just haven't had that. I mean, our first day was just rampant craziness over and over again. We were talking about wanting to have a little bit more time to discuss what this meta means. We could possibly go into it yet again, Papa, if we wanted to talk about it. Of course, already discussed why there are no, crit marksmen in the meta anymore, but of course, Lucian's still relevant, Ezreal's still relevant, and Kai'Sa to a certain extent with her AP build still relevant. Also, Rageblade still an option. You can build towards some damage there.
Been a little while since we've seen a Rageblade. The Aatrox yesterday was the one that comes to mind.
God.
Come back, Keen. You've been popping off.
It was repugnant. In a good way for Freak of Freaks fans. But unfortunately, no more Aatrox after the next little while. The rework was cool. Yeah.
It's interesting. I was reading the Reddit post about how there's a top 10 challenger player from Korea whose current name is Please Don't Rework.
Yeah, because he's a one-trick and has been for a very long time.
I just feel so bad because obviously the rework was in the, in the tunnel for so long. It's obviously been worked on for a very long time. The assets are ready. It's ready to ship. And finally, Aatrox makes his glorious return about a month ago in Demacia Cup from Duke, and now has played in the LCK. And it's like, well...
And now you think, looking at Riot Games, like, oh, they're just trolling us now. I want to get rid of the champions and just become cool and just rework them. No, these are things that are in the pipeline for extraordinarily long times. And if you have a look at the rework, man, it looks real cool. Feels like he plays like a Riven with large red circles.
Oh, good, another Riven. Says every non-Riven. Well, this game is stalled. Has stalled with a growing gold lead for the side of Griffin. So they have been slowly inching forward. Basically in every role they're up, but the top lane is the most pronounced. Very, very far ahead. Might actually even see a Spirit Visage for even more healing from the Mundo.
Does seem to be where he's aiming for. That's not going to build into a Stone Plate, which is the other option that he certainly has to go with, is Yondu. Okay.
You could actually consider an Adaptive Helm because of Lulu's Pix damage, but I think Spirit Visage, you're ahead in items, so why not go for the one that gives you the more selfish stats?
Yeah, and I feel like afterwards, if he goes for something like a Thornmail, that makes a lot of sense as well, as he's behind the turret right now, and they should be able to just brute force their way forward on this one. MVP didn't have a lot of options there as the health bar wasn't quite up as ADD. He's going to get stunned. There's the ultimate. As now they've got Paranoia defensively utilized here by Yondu. As Tarzan is going to make his way out effectively, and the Mundo zoning 4 people by himself.
That is what Mundo does. Actually, a lot of restraint shown by Tarzan. Doesn't continue to all-in on into ADD. Prefers to group with his team and peel. So in case there's going to be anyone on the back, as maybe those kill ADD now.
Yep, well, he's going to be able to eat some oranges. Did still have the flash available, but Sword, he doesn't care about turrets, wasn't even tanking it there. As you can see, Chovy's running extraordinarily fast. Hemoplague to try and turn this one around. That is going to be the binding landing, as Ian does get himself the shield off cooldown just in time. But Griffin now have control of this lane as they move their way forward. Oh, look at all the little treats for Chovy on the ground, but he's just going to go back to base, as this tower should be taken by Viper.
And they win all ends up. They get the kill bot lane. They take the inner turret in the mid lane. They grow their gold lead closer and closer to 10,000 gold. They still had the siege machine in Zoe. They were waiting for their moment, and their moment is 4 turrets to 0 and 4 kills to 1.
By the looks of things, MVP are going to be going for the Essence Revolution, so unfortunately this isn't a winning game right now, but Pilot might be able to get himself to a point where he can skate around the rift.
Maybe even has to go for a more Malmortius, which builds from the Caulfield's Warhammer as well.
True.
Well, at some point, Vladimir one rotations you, so there's probably no good decision between the 2 items.
I mean, it didn't help Maha. I mean, he still just got 1 rotation.
Wow, that's just Vlad.
Yeah, okay, good point.
Maybe Vlad's the problem.
Need all the help you can get. Well, we were saying that picking it or banning it was a good idea before the draft. So, can't say we didn't warn you, MVP. Just standing there.
Yeah, he's Mundo.
Oh, God. Just ridiculous. Okay, well, Viper just going to start clearing out some vision here. You can see the bottom side is just littered. It's a Christmas tree of wards. But the Baron is where they need to be looking. 25 minutes here into this game, and you're right, Papa, it was sneaking towards a 10,000 gold lead. It's about 9 at the moment. as Griffin just seem to be able to pick up far more farm than what MVP have had offered to them, and they're going to start this Baron. Seems like they're more than happy to have MVP come to them. Cannon Barrage is available, Teleport is available, but where's the vision?
And do note that this is possible because as a counterpoint to AD carries, Vladimir can take the Baron for the team, so it doesn't have to be a top laner or a tank.
Yep, and heal is in fact going to be picked up by Chovy there as well. They are going to peel away from the Baron. Sword was, of course, nowhere to be seen.
Just a very interesting nuance, because, you know, it's the Fiesta meta, says some people. One thing I want to draw your attention to is usually Mundo has to be there for this lineup to take the Baron, right? Because Viper's playing Lucian or Ezreal or something. The Vladimir is unique in that it's a marksman who's usually the one person that is free to be able to hit the Baron. He can tank it with the Vladimir as well. So it's a very small thing. Won't be relevant in many games. But given that lane assignments taking a Baron when you have a Camille jungler instead of a tank jungler are very different, it is a cool thing to see.
Well, in goes the engagement. And that is a very, very dead Braum. Hextech Ultimatum just guaranteed it. And it's not the jungler, but does this mean that Griffin just goes straight back on the Baron? Looks like the answer's yes.
Onto the Baron, this time Sword's there, and he does pretty good damage on it as well. Chovy's going to spend his time with 3 wards looking for some trouble bubbles.
Well, Paranoia is going to come in here from Yondu. ADD wants to try and get himself towards this Baron pit. Viper, Crimson Rush going to get himself back up to health as Sword. He's just a wall. He is a brick wall, and he's doing so much damage as well. Paranoia not going to do anything. He's going to go golden, but at the same time as the Camille, and Tarzan's going to be able to walk out of this one. Pilot is limping away from the battlefield. There's no Baron to be taken down just yet, and I don't know what the health bar at the end of that was for Pilot, but it was extraordinarily low. And they are going to start this one up one more time. They need Sword to be in that pit this time, though.
And honestly, Atlas, I feel like Griffin are the first team to understand that you can actually just pick Mundo for power level rather than Mundo into a good matchup. This champion is super powerful on patch 8.11. It can anti-carry, it does not die. As I mentioned, grievous wounds. If you have Ignite on a Mundo at level 16, he regens more health than he did previously than if he had no Ignite on him. That is how much the ultimate was buffed in terms of regen, and he ignored 4 people, and they turned and killed them. So, yeah, Mundo's doing some work.
That was just so silly. By himself. Just by himself. And now he's got 4,000 health, very close to picking up that Thornmail that I was talking about for his 4th item. Some casual Ninja Tabis there as well. He's securing some sweet business deals at the same time. What can this man not do? I'm not entirely sure. That list is very long. As yes, Tarzan certainly did get to a much better clip with the Trinity Force, now building towards his next item as well. Looks like it's going to be Titanic Hydra potentially.
Sterix Gauge, my expectation
yes,
there.
Course, that makes a lot more sense.
Hasn't been changed on patch 8.11, so still has that great synergy with Trinity Force.
Not sure how I managed to botch that particular idea. I've been playing a heck of a lot of Trinity Force Sterix, but in goes Yondu. They're looking for the desperation fight. They jump on top of the Mundo, but he's a sadist, and he's going to be able to get all of that health back. In goes Tarzan. Massive amounts of damage. The Hextech Ultimatum spreads out MVP so they can be eaten by Griffin. This is looking like the 2-0 as Chovy is going to finish off the Pirate. It's a double for Tarzan. They'll take down the inhibitor, and they'll take down the base. Griffin looking at a 2-0. 12-1. It's a massacre.
Turns out if you give them a lead, they can definitely close the game from there. Great performance coming through from Griffin. Gonna give the MVP, my vote at least, to Sword, as the Mundo definitely went where he pleased. An accelerated Mundo versus an accelerated Gangplank at the start, but then a couple of ganks from Tarzan later. Felt like the story was over for the Pirate.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been toting Griffin as this incredible team that can come through and sweep their way up the rankings of the LCK. At the moment, the test hasn't necessarily been our top-level teams, but man, you're allowed to get more and more excited about the upcoming matches that Griffin are going to be facing.
Currently 18-0 on 2018. Atlas, they were granted by the LCK gods a pretty soft opening schedule because they're against the hapless BBQ for their third and final match of the week. So 19-0 looking likely Who's going to be there to stop them hitting 20? It's Jin Air. So they're actually getting
they are
very
just
soft
cruising
schedule.
from the bottom to the top.
They could be 4-0, 20-0 overall on the year. But then consider from there, the schedule will be insane.
Yeah, because they do have to play everyone before the second round robin does kick off. So it could be a rude awakening for Griffin as they start to reach the likes of Kingzone, Gen G, and the rest of the top tier talent. But let's have a look at the damage. Top damage on his team was that Mundo, so I definitely get behind the MVP because that's the tank and also the top damage. Gangplank, of course, always doing a heck of a lot, so ADD needs an honorable mention for how much he got down, but MVP just couldn't quite get to the late game prowess of Griffin.
And while we didn't see Tarzan pop off at level 2, I like the times that he chose to gank and his mechanics on the Camille were actually probably our most impressive Camille mechanics. Decision making in the early game, definitely give it to Haru yesterday. But actually the mechanics and even that last fight for the turret dive, beautiful stuff coming through from the Camille. Don't think the Camille will get the MVP runner-up for me. Sword though, dubbed the Michelin Man by one of the fans here at the stadium. Well-deserving MVP.
Yep, the Michelin sword sounds like it's going to be, you know, like more of a pillar than anything else, but this one certainly cuts deep, and 406 certainly demonstrates why Mundo is busted.
I love the last rune choice on the right, approach velocity for, hey, if you CC my teammate, I'm gonna move real fast.
Exactly, and I'm coming to get you. In fact, anything with more movement speed for Mundo means that he's just gonna go even more where he pleases. As yeah, like you were talking about the honorable mention for Tarzan, certainly did make the early game work out for Griffin, and grabbing those 2 kills meant that he was able to get an earlier Trinity Force.
And it's cool that they were a duo. Like in this game, we saw Tarzan and Sword come together very, very well, and it proved important on the victory. This is when they thought that 4v1 they could take down Mundo. No, MVP, that's not going to happen. MVP back down to earth after a wonderful performance against BBQ, maybe letting us know a bit more. But the tier list that currently we can, after only 4 teams have played a second match. Love this from Tarzan. Probably the biggest tactical sweep we've ever seen. Got 4 people and was able to clean up this fight from it.
It's not often that you're talking about the AoE damage of a tactical sweep, but certainly did a heck of a lot of work this game. Now, we are going to be able to have a word with Sword as well as Viper and find out what it all is about, with the Vladimir on the bottom side of the map and Mundo going exactly where he pleases, and Joel is going to take us through it.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Joel with your last interview translation for the day, and we're here with Griffin, the rookie team that's looking so good right now for the second match that ends up very, very quickly here. And we are going to be joined in by currently still a top first place team with 2 wins undefeated. Gonna go with Viper and Sword for the interview. Of course, winning out your first game in Sangam. How do you feel? I'm the ADC for Griffin, but I'm better at mages. My name is Viper. You have to be good at everything in the nowadays League of Legends, but Sword, anything you'd like to say as well? The top laner for Griffin, my name is Sword. And I heard that Sword has a lot more experience as a player, but it just feels like Sword is the one nervous on the stage right now on the interviews, and Viper, you seem a lot more calm. But I feel like you seem more calm, but like, how do you feel? It's a bit nervous. It's a bit nervous to be up here. We'll get to see a lot more in these interviews, I'm sure, in the future. But you do say you're good at mages, Viper, but the Rise really caught a lot of attention from the fans, and people see that that Vladimir is still the way to go. But how do you feel about those champions right now? You know, when I do play solo queue, I just do every lane, so I really don't mind on positions. I think that allows me to play a lot more champions. Do you feel like you have the confidence to play those champions? I mean, I don't know about confidence, but I just play it. Solo queue, you're playing a lot of variety of champions help you guys out. And for the fans, I mean, that's what's been keeping your progress on how you've been doing the solo queue. And there has been a little bit of difficulty when things didn't work out, and we were getting a little bit nervous, but anything you'd like to explain on that part? I am a ADC by position, but at the same time, I just don't really understand what the other positions dynamics are, you know, in their own respective lanes. And in order to understand it, you have to play all these different positions, and it just allows me to just kind of widen my understanding of these different positions. It allows me to get the better understanding of the entire game. And you guys were really starting over in the way that starting over the fights and making sure you get the advantages forward. I mean, this meta is actually really good for us because a lot of our players like to play these weird champions and variety of champions, and I think it suits us pretty well. Some people say that it's a little bit difficult to face this meta, especially with the ADCs not being so well done, but the MVP interviews are now with you, Viper, for the first time. Feels like Lehen's feels like he's been tearing up right now because he didn't get the MVP for today, and maybe he deserved it a lot more than you did. What do you think about that? Of course, you always play duo with him. Yeah, level 1, the Trundle came in, and I tried to make sure I make the super play out of that and put the ward in. And I knew that he was going to come back, but after we died from that, but he died again, and you know, Lehen's and I mean, I understand where he's coming from, and with the Soraka, it's just a little bit tough, but you know, maybe he just believes in himself a little bit too much, but I think that wants to be a little apologetic in the way that he just couldn't keep himself from dying. And what are the primary shot calls, especially who makes those shot calling here? We always try to at least calm him up, you know, and try to cheer him up when things go down. And but I feel like everybody was pretty startled at first, so just feels like everything that went wrong, you guys put it back together, and also with Sword, with Griffin looking so good right now, and feels like all the attention is right on, and you do get the fan favorites from these fans watching from the audience here, and people feel like Griffin is still a good team right now. I can't really say that we're the top tier team right now, or we're getting any type of treatment that represents that, but I feel like the fans are increasingly having more faith in us, and that's already a good start to go with. And let's talk about the games themselves, because there are multiple things to talk about. Let's look at one highlight before we start talking about additional topics. There's something curious about Vipers. There's something different and special about how Griffin approaches team fights. I mean, we just know kind of the timing of when we will win the team fights and when we will lose the team fights, and we choose our decisions based on that. And we have a good instinct that, you know, whenever we go in, we know the team fights that we're getting into, we're gonna win them. And it could have been a mistake from that perspective, and didn't it feel like with you going in so aggressively there, weren't the teammates worried? I mean, he's talking about Lehen's, he always goes around and just tries to make way, just gonna make a detour every time, but sometimes, you know, you have to make a straight way forward, but in the end, we just get over things and just get past it and just do better next time. And can't you guys really talk about maybe leaving one man behind for the sake of the team? I mean, whenever one person even makes a bad decision, we always like to follow up on it and try to trust each other in a team. We also have a Sword with the Dr. Mundo. Get to see that in a replay as well. It feels like did you press S to make sure you just stop and stand while your opponents are having all the free time in the world? I just felt like, you know, when I just don't move around that much, they might feel the pressure that I'm basically invincible and no one can really attack me and kill me. Did you feel like with your performance today with the Mundo that you were getting the MVP today? I just don't think that a tank top lane should be able to get MVPs, but I just want to say that, you know, the jungler did such a good job, Tarzan, ganking my lane quite a bit.
승용이가 잘 봐주더라고요.
But I feel like he did so well to make me look good.
타잔이 받을 거라
I think Tarzan should have received the MVP, but I was surprised that I got it at the end.
그럼 그 타잔이 이렇게 잘 또 커버해주면서 시너지를 냈던 장면도 있다고 하니까는 보면서 저희 한번.
And we also get to look at Tarzan, examples of how that came forward.
통해서 사실상 거의 탑도를
Basically, 2 dives on top lane that really destroyed the lane altogether.
분도가 이게 갱플랭크가 아니고
I mean, you talk about Gangplank not really being a burst champion to begin with, and it really can't bring down Mundo in a hurry whenever it gets dived. So you buy a lot of time already with the champion differences, and that's where you get the Camille to come in and put out the damage. And we saw the Nocturne being pretty aggressive, and you're actually starting with the blue. And we saw that actually with the ward just right there in that mid lane. If it wasn't for that, then Nocturne wouldn't have been caught. And
이때 타잔 선수가
this was where Tarzan said that he predicted that the Nocturne would go to that direction, and he felt like that was coming, and he just allowed us, and everything, just like all the credits now go to Tarzan again.
지금 탑이 뭘 하겠어요?
I mean, if I don't compliment it now, I don't know when I will. So
칸 정도나 그 선수들만큼
of course, if I become good as Khan or anyone like that, then maybe I can keep the credit for myself. Well, you are the best top laner right now. You have 2 wins. Basically, nobody else does. And with Griffin, they came from challenges, and when Bito was talking like there, he was a caster for the challenges. He definitely knows the full story, and he was basically one of the top prospects for a top laner in all of Korea, even including the LCK guys. And maybe he just doesn't feel like that he's not a top prospect, but a lot of confusion as to his identity of how good he actually is. But isn't it time for you to get some confidence now, Sword? I'll definitely try to make sure get a little more confidence. Viper, would you like to give him some compliments to make him feel better? I mean, we always make him play the tank so he gets beat down while we all do all the fun things. So, I mean, but as a top laner, you just don't get all the spotlight again. But still, his skills are definitely undoubtedly really good. You do have the very solid top lane, as you say. Of course, you don't have many experience, but you guys feel very composed in all lanes, and with the jungler as well. But it feels like the confidence is there with every individual member. And do you feel like you have the objective to move through here? I mean, today's game, we felt like without a big mistake, we thought we were going to win this game. And just looking at the opposition, and the second game, picks and bans just made it so easy for us that we knew we had a much better composition. So, and we just really have a belief in ourselves that we're not really weak against any other team. But as long as we get the right picks, we should be a stronger team against any team right now. And with the coaching staff, they always do say that being a challenger team coming up to LCK, and they say that it's a lot of confidence factor that has to matter. When you're so good in challenger and now you're in LCK, do you feel like the LCK? I mean, you never know. You might make it to the World Championship. And Sword is lacking the confidence to answer that question. I mean, talking about World Championships already, I don't know really too much about that. I haven't really looked that far into it. But I do have the confidence for anything right now. Of course, playing based on that confidence is going to be so important for you guys. And from challengers also to LCK, you guys had definitely a tough road getting here, and you do have a lot of people cheering out for you, relatives, supporters, and anybody that you want to talk about. The Griffin, the representative, helping you guys as well. You want to say anything to any of your supporting people out there? I mean, we were trying to talk about. I was actually filming a little clip that didn't actually come up, but I was actually wanted to show that actually, but
벗었다 썼다가 좀 번갈아가면서 한
And
것
that was
같아요.
me just taking off my glasses, put on the glasses, and the intro was really important. Of course, you have fans out there and people who want to be your fans. Would you like to show an example of that? Taking off your glasses and show yourself there?
이게 도수가 굉장히 높아가지고
No, your
눈이 약간 작아
eyesight
보이거든요.
isn't the best, but
다음에 무게
he wants to show. I want to show it next time.
그러면은 뭐 다음에 그러면은 벗는 걸로 하고.
But next time, when you come to the stage again, maybe you'll take off your glasses and show us your true face.
네, 많은 팬분들도 이렇게
With a lot of fans starting to cheer on for Griffin more and more as the days go by. Anything like to say to the fans out there? Has been highly supportive of you guys.
앞으로 계속 더 좋은 연승.
We'll try to make sure to keep this consecutive win going, and
계속 잘 봐주셨으면.
I hope you guys enjoy our games and be entertained by what we can do.
바이퍼 선수도 지금 부모님이 또
It seems like parents have come over as well to watch
잘한 것 같습니다.
and so supportive of your careers here. We did already talk to the fans, but anything like to say to your family has been so supportive, and also anybody else that you want to thank as well.
언제나 저에게 자신감을
I mean, putting the confidence is me.
감독님께
It's always the head coach. It's always puts all the confidence in me to become a better player.
감독님이 뒤에서 박수 열심히 치고 있지
So the head coach is clapping quite excitedly in the back, but consecutive win for Griffin. I think that's the most important thing, and it seems like they're definitely adapting to this LCK stage and looking very good as the days go by. We'll see how far Griffin can go as the new team. See if they can become that roller. Gonna find out as the games go by as well. And that was the end of the translation. My name is Joel, and I'll bring it back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Joel. As usual, excellent translation. Good to hear from our Griffin members, because every time one of them gets up there, it's going to be a first experience here on the LCK, and that's a 2-0 victory, giving us some time with Viper and Sword.
6 rookies we've seen, 6 rookies that look pretty impressive, and of course the caveat we mentioned a couple of times, we heard there, the schedule is pretty lax. It continues for them, and honestly, the first team that isn't recognized as a bottom team they face is SKT, and SKT have been struggling themselves. The win streak could be big before they face some of the other big boys. For the side of Griffin, you can only beat who's put in front of you. It was a very comfortable win over MVP.
Yeah, as far as match wins are concerned, we might see them get to 22, 23, something like that before they are going to be toppled. But it was a disappointing day for MVP fans. There were a lot of them in the audience, a lot of empty seats as that interview was going on. So we'll see whether MVP can find their way back, because right now sitting as the only team on 0 points doesn't feel super good.
So remember, guys, we have Friday match days this season. We haven't in the past any point in the LCK. We do now to get through the schedule a bit faster. Tomorrow over at Spo TV, Jinnair versus Kingzone, Genji versus SKT, a great match day to be true. But the pick of the week for certain, first game at OGN on Saturday, FLICKR Freaks versus KT. Griffin excluded, these two teams have led the way in terms of play. I'm very interested to see which team comes out on top.
Yeah, and completely different strategies as well. It's been very successful for KT, but very slow and steady. And FLICKR, just like a double-barrel shotgun to the face, taking down their opponents.
I did an interview today with the Korean press about who I thought the prospects were and who were the favorites for the season. It's so early. The meta will certainly change before we reach that time. But if you press me today, FLICKR versus KT sounds like LCK Summer Final in my estimation.
Yeah, it's incredibly exciting. We'll see whether Kingzone can turn things around. Of course, Jinnair is going to be their next matchup, I believe, tomorrow night. So a little bit of a softer opposition as opposed to Gen G, I guess. So might feel a little bit better about that one. But guys, we got a pretty early finish tonight. This is not normally what I expect to happen, Papa.
We'll take it this time, Atlas.
Yeah, exactly. Normally I get into a lot of trouble because they're really long, but I'm going to make sure that I get a lot of praise for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow for the first time of Friday LCK Day. It's a real fun week. That's going to be over at Spo TV. But thank you so much for watching, guys, and we will see you then.
Accusation, but you're the criminal.